If you're caught up in the downward spiral of explicit matter and acting out in sexual ways that you don't want to, this is an important episode for you if you've thought to yourself that there must be a spiritual way for you to get out of this. I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Welcome back for another episode of the podcast. Today, let's dig into the spiritual journey to explicit matter recovery. This is an important one, so stick around to the end so I can give you some brain hack strategies. Now, here's the first thing that I want to talk about today. Number one is let's think about what explicit matter is doing to your life and your lifestyle. And I know I don't need to tell you, but I do want you to think about it because it is taking you off track. It is a distractor from your divine purpose. So I want you to realize that and recognize it. That's step number one, is that you have the R&R moment of, yeah, I know I've been doing this for a long time. I know it feels good in the moment, but in fact, it is keeping you from your full potential. Realize and recognize it is taking you off your path because we're talking about a spiritual journey here. So if you're caught up in constant pleasure seeking and distraction, if you then have more pain in your real life, which leads you back to more pleasure seeking as a distraction. I was actually just listening to the Billie Eilish song. I dropped my daughter off at school, and there's a song she has called Male Fantasy. And in it, she has a line that she distracted herself with pornography. And if you have heard me talk about Billie Eilish, she has admitted to having a pornography addiction in the past. And she said that it destroyed her brain and that it really messed with her sexuality until she figured it out. So I want you to know it's distracting you from your God-given inspired purpose. And to me, inspired means in spirit. When you're filled with the spirit and you're so psyched and jazzed up to share it with the world. Now, that's not always an easy thing to figure out, and we're going to get there in number two. But when you're caught in the constant pleasure-seeking loop, it does lead to more pain in your life, anxiety, depression, sexual arousal disorders, SAD, as I call them. It leads to decreased productivity, decreased focus. It leads to ADHD symptoms, porn-induced ADHD. We know that it increases heated breakups and divorce in relationships. It ruptures relationships. We know that it leads to less sexual satisfaction. It leads to self-image issues, body image issues for you, and less satisfaction with your partner's body. It shows up as pain in the real world for you. And then it leads you back to more pleasure seeking. This is the loop, and you've been caught in it. And if you're in a loop, you're not moving forward. Recognize that and realize that. Now, when I'm talking about divine purpose, what are we talking about there? It's not constant pleasure seeking, it's not pain, and it's not the loop of it. Guess what it is? It's happiness, it's joy, it's peace. That is what I want for you. You feel it on the inside. And guess what it feels like? First, it feels like nothing. It feels like a void of all the stress, anxiety, and depression you used to have. But then you come to love it as the space within for you to hear the calling of your divine purpose. If your brain and your mind is so jacked up with explicit matter, there's no room for the whispers of your divine purpose to come to you, and there's no space for you to hear them. That's why it's imperative to leave the loop behind if you really want to get on purpose. And I know for me, at the end of my life, I want to know that I left it all on the floor. You know, on my last breath, I want to just feel like I didn't leave anything out there undone that I could have done, that I could have contributed to the world, the impact that I could make. That's what we're talking about. We all have it in here. We all have it in our heart and our mind, the impact that we want to make here. And for some, it's being an accountant. For others, it's riding horses, like my precious daughter, Saoirse. For others, it's computer programming. For others, it's art, it's music. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it's yours and it's authentic and that you have the courage to follow it, which leads us to number two. Number two is it's imperative that you figure out who you are authentically. Now, when you found porn when you were young, it took you off the path of continuing to discover who you are. We know that it's called an inner child wound. So when you found porn, it actually created a stunt in your brain's development in terms of functioning. This is proven by science. That decreased function development is what then kind of blocks you from continuing to figure out who you are. We know this from scientists that have proven that if something happens at one stage in development, it can create what's called a maladaptation, which means you adapt to the thing that happened, and then all the stages after that look different. That's Erikson's stages, if you want to look it up. It's in my new book, Mind Over Explicit Matter, that's coming out soon. So please get your copy. And if you pre-order on my website, there's exclusive bonuses. We're doing a workshop with me. We're doing a workbook that you get to go along with the book. And I'm doing an audio series too. So pre-order that book now. And when there's a maladaptation in the stages, you move forward the rest of your life differently than you would have if you didn't find porn and you didn't keep watering the seeds of addiction through consuming it continually and masturbating and using explicit matter in different ways like social media. So now your trajectory for development is different. Now, here's what I'm here to tell you. Neuroplasticity shows you can change that trajectory back to adaptive at any point if you can change that thing that happened. And in this case, it's leaving explicit matter behind. You leave it behind and you pick up where you were. And at the end of your life, you will have known you've left it all on the floor, because there's not a person in the world who wants to get to the end of their life thinking that they've wasted all their time, energy, money, relationships, brain function, their energy in their mind, their divine spark inspired purpose that's in them, wasted it because they're caught in this loop. That's the urgency here. I want you to think about porn recovery as if your life depends on it, because it does. It literally does. And in this way, you're finding your authentic self, not who your mother wanted you to be, not who your partner thinks you should be. So when we think of authentic self, it no longer includes should have, could have to, need to, like need to use porn. That's a thing that is part of the self-concept that you have developed. And it's a maladaptive self-concept. So now, once you clear the fog of the loop, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in a minute, once you clear the fog, then there's space for who you really are. What do you really love? And you know what? Then you might hear the whisper of spirit in your ear saying, you know what, sister? Help people with porn recovery. That's true. I sat in those blue chairs and I heard that whisper. But I had to listen. I had to get quiet enough. I had to turn down the noise, the external noise. Porn is the noise. It's a distractor. Okay, so we're talking about the 3 C's when we talk about finding your authentic self. Number 1, clarity. You have to get quiet in the mind. You have to elevate your mind over explicit matter. That's why the book is called that. You do it through rewiring your brain to get clarity. And once you have clarity on what you really want to do, number 2 is you have to have the courage to do it. So when I sat in those blue chairs and I'm like, seriously, porn recovery, me? I'm like, all right, because I'm leaving it all on the floor. I'm here for how I can serve humanity. Let's do it. You've equipped me. You've equipped me in my mind, in my heart, because I want to, in my education, my credentials, my background, my personal life that led me here. I'm ready. I was prepared when the journey showed up for me. So are you. But you have to get clarity and courage. And the last C is compassion. It's important to have compassion for people who don't understand your journey. It's important to have compassion for yourself. Grace is another word for that. So clarity, courage, and compassion. Absolutely essential for you to figure out who you are. Now, how do you get your brain in a spot that you can do it? It's very difficult to leave explicit matter because it's highly addictive. So that's what me and my team do. All day, every day. That's what the book is about. So pre-order the book. It's the blueprint, the guide for you to do it by yourself at home. It will get you started. Then if you need professional help, I've developed a very advanced system using neuroscience and advanced technology. So the way I do it is we take a QEEG brain map of your brain performance. We see how your brain is functioning. You see it too. You can visualize it. You can see the areas and the levels of dysfunction. We know exactly how and how far away from the optimal brain pattern your brain pattern is. We know what porn is doing to your brain, how it's creating that maladaptation. For some people, it's 1 level. For other people, it's 6+ levels, which is a lot. So you can visualize it on a QEEG brain map. And from there, I set very specific protocols for you. I set them so that it helps your brain, it's like a workout, to move toward the healthy, optimal brain pattern, maybe for the first time ever. So once you're in the healthy brain pattern, then you can hear with clarity, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is the thing. You're in spirit. The spirit's moving through you. And now you can show up on purpose with compassion for the world, compassion for yourself for being caught up in explicit matter for so long, compassion for your partner who's probably wounded by this situation and maybe acting in a stress response, not treating you kindly. But that's a stress response. The things you're doing, it's a stress response. So the whole key is to bring stress down. Now, number 3 is, this is what I want you to recognize. If you're on a spiritual journey to recover from explicit matter, many people go to their church leaders. And that's a beautiful first step. They will encourage you to do what I just told you. Tap into your divine energy and figure out how you can move past this so you can be on purpose and you can contribute so that you're no longer crossing your own moral boundaries and giving yourself shame. Church leaders are a great first step. But guess what? They don't usually know the formula. I work with church leaders who will refer people to me because their members will come to them and say, I'm caught up in this thing. I can't stop using explicit matter. My wife's about to leave me. I'm about to leave my job. I'm in trouble with the law. I do not know what to do. And going to your church leader so that you have someone to confide in that you know and you trust and you know that they can help you, but they can help point you in the right direction. They are the leaders who God equipped to do that. But then you have to go to a professional who has the formula. But I want you to remember that's still part of a spiritual journey because God's the one who has equipped those professionals with the inspired, empowered knowledge, skills, compassion to help you. That's how I feel about me and my team. Every single person on my team is eager to help you. It's their mission. It's my mission. And if you go to your church leader and they don't know how to serve you, it's because they played their role in helping you to get it off your chest and get it out of your mind. And hopefully they've referred you to a professional. Now, here's an easy way to think about it. My bestie is a luxury realtor. So now if you want a luxury home, she's your girl. God put in her heart and mind, I'm going to sell luxury homes. You want a luxury home? Don't come to me. So the other idea is my son Seamus just had his wisdom teeth taken out. We had to take him to the oral surgeon. The oral surgeon removed his 4 wisdom teeth. You need teeth out? Do not call me. If you needed teeth out, would you go to your church leader? No, you would go to the oral surgeon. So I want you to recognize a spiritual journey can include your church leaders, but that's not where it stops. The journey includes all the people who have in their heart and their mind, they're on a mission, a divinely inspired mission to help you with exactly what you need, right? If you need a plumber, you don't go to your church leader. You call the plumber because guess what? The plumber was inspired to plumb. You need a cake, you don't call the plumber. You call the baker. The baker has in her heart the desire to make beautiful cakes to make your occasion wonderful. This is the spiritual journey. I believe we each have a purpose that has been put in us from the start. And if you nurture it, it will grow and it'll change for sure, but it'll grow over time. And at the end of the journey, you'll look back and go, dang, I showed up for it. And I worked with all the people who showed up to do what they wanted to do here on planet Earth. So here's your brain hack strategy for the day. Number 1, recognize and realize explicit matter is holding you back. Number 2, you have to rewire your brain, either with me or with another professional. You have to rewire your brain. Another thing I do in my program, it's a neuro-bio-psychosocial approach, which means it's not just advanced technology. There's also a digital program with over 94 lessons where you have 94 new action steps to take to change your mind and your behaviors once your brain's in a better spot. We also offer personal coaching. You meet with me or a person on my team to keep you moving forward. It's the tools, the techniques, the strategies, the accountability, and the support you need. That is what science shows moves you forward quickly with less struggle and less suffering. And I know I'm talking about science and spirit all in the same moment. The people who do the science are in spirit. They are divinely inspired to do the scientific studies to show the things that work to help you. They can be one and the same. To me, neuroscience is one of the most wonderful things that, has been created from the creator. You're a co-creator in your life. You have to remember that. So you have to get quiet so you can hear what you should be, and should's the wrong word, but what you can be creating. And it starts with clarity, then courage. It always involves courage, just so you know, because being your authentic self takes courage. And this journey is one of going from a self-concept that you don't need anymore. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. You can throw that mask away. You don't need it anymore. Now you're just going to show up as you, your real self, the true you. We're going to a concert on Saturday night, and I was just thinking how my bestie texted this morning. She's like, I'm going to channel your natural enthusiasm and excitement. Because I'm like, I'm ready, people. I've been listening to the tunes and I am ready to rock out on Saturday night. That's how I show up in the world. Not everybody does, but that's me. That is just me. So when we go, I'm going to be rocking out. That is how I show up as Trish. That's what I want for you. When I was young, my dad called me Little Wish, and it's a term of endearment and I absolutely love it. And I see this picture of us walking by our pool. He owned a pool store back in the day, above ground pools. And I see us walking around the pool, and it makes me think, like, that little girl, she wasn't affected. There was no wounded inner child. There was no, where I had to achieve and I had to learn more. I had to keep going with degrees, and I had to get smarter and smarter and know more and more and more. That is the self-concept. But check this out. I don't have to abandon that. All I have to do is not hide behind it anymore. And I've taken all the things I've taught myself, the me that I made over time, and I've tweaked it, the self that I've always wanted to be, sharing all that information readily, not having to be the smartest person in the room, being the person who helps other people heal as much as possible, the one that can listen more instead of talking all the time. I've taken the self-concept and massaged it into the self. That's what I want for you. Clarity, courage, compassion for yourself. I look back at that girl and I'm like, dang, that's a lot of years of education just on the grind. And I made myself do it so that I could be accepted by my parents and I could feel like I fit in my family. But then when I recognized what I was doing to myself, I switched it into the true Trish. And you can read about that story in Mind Over Explicit Matter too. Okay, so lastly is all the people here on earth, including you, when they're tapped in, they are part of your spiritual journey. The person who gives you good advice, part of your spiritual journey. The professionals who were sent to help you. Your church leaders who encourage you to leave explicit matter behind and to get the help that you need. We're all here for it. We're all here for each other. So I really hope you take the first step and realize it all can be spiritual. We don't have to put it into a box, that it all is spiritual. All right, I hope this helps you rock it out, and I'll see you next time on the podcast. And as always, control your brain or it'll control you.